Hey everybody, this is Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff, and it is time for the Galaxy Note 4 full in-depth review. I have taken a lot of things into consideration. I have looked at a lot of your guys' questions on the initial review comment section, so there's many things I want to cover. It's going to be time-coded, so you can look at the links in the description to jump from topic to topic to topic. So hopefully I can help you decide if this is the device for you or if you should go for another phablet that's out on the market. Also, I wanted to thank AT&T so much for sending this device out for me to look at. So now let's go ahead and take a look at it. Now starting off with taking a bit of a look around this device, I've got the black one here, although it comes in 4 different colors. Stateside so far I've only seen the black one and the white one. It also comes in a rose and a bronze color as well. Between the black one and the white one, I like the black one better because it has this textured back cover that feels like a faux leather. It's got a rubbery type texture to it, where the white one is just plain plastic. It has the same type of appearance, but it doesn't have that rubbery feel. I think that rubbery feel makes it feel like real leather instead of just looking like the nice appearance of leather. So this one has a more premium feel to me. The one downside I notice about this coating is that on the Galaxy Note 3 I can see that it started to wear off after a while. You can see where the plastic is shiny there, where you've got that dull type of a rubbery appearance to the rest of it. It's not very obvious. It's something that I barely was able to notice. But I'm hoping that that's something that doesn't happen to the Galaxy Note 4. I can see that this is just a nice domed back. There is no leather stitching appearance to it. So without that leather stitching appearance to it, I'm hoping that it has less of a chance for it to rub against something. With using it so far, I have not seen any trouble, so I'm hoping that that continues to not be a problem. I'm not such a fan of this stitching here. I think for a while people liked how this looked, but my overall opinion is that it looks cheap in comparison to what we have now. This just looks really nice and clean. On top of it, we've got that metal band that goes all around the sides. We've also got those chamfered edges, which really gives it a nice appearance. Whereas on the Galaxy Note 3, we have these ridges here that were supposed to look like pages, but they just collect gunk and fingerprint oil after a while, and it just doesn't end up looking so nice. So putting that metal band with those nice chamfered edges really is a nice touch here on this device. And you can see that it's tapered in places here at the top and also at the bottom. So I just really love how that feels in hand now. On the front, we have Gorilla Glass 4 versus the Gorilla Glass 3 that was on the Galaxy Note 3. This is the first device that I have seen out that has Gorilla Glass 4. What Corning says with Gorilla Glass 4 is that it's basically better able to handle drops. For example, drops are the most problematic thing when you drop your phone face flat on a rough surface, such as on asphalt or pavement. This is just the end of most devices I've seen. And what Corning is claiming is that you can drop your phone face flat on a rough surface from up to 1 meter, and it should survive 80% of the time. Now, I've already seen a drop test. This guy, Tech Rex, he's always breaking something. And it looked like he dropped the phone from about 1 meter, face flat, and it shattered the display. So that was before I realized that this had Gorilla Glass 4. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. Of course, 80% of the time is not guaranteeing that it's going to survive every single drop, but I would like to get my hands on something to mess around with that glass. For scratches at least, I thought that the Galaxy Note 3 was pretty awesome with that Gorilla Glass 3 because it does do pretty well against scratches. Taking a look at the rest of the front of the Galaxy Note 4 and comparing it to what we have on the Note 3, we've got front-facing cameras that are in the same spot, 2 megapixels versus 3.7. That's a pretty large leap in resolution. We've got proximity sensor and ambient light sensors in the same spot. Then down on the bottom here, you can see that we still have these capacitive buttons, but they're a little bit different with the layout. We still have the menu button here where we now have the task switcher, but that back button is in the same spot. We've also got a little bit larger looking of a home button. This is now a fingerprint reader like on the Galaxy S5. We've got our receiver at the top there. On the left-hand sides, we've got our volume rocker, pretty much the same spot. At the top, we've got a standard headphone jack, a microphone in the same spot, and we've also got our IR blaster. The right side looks pretty similar as well. We've got our power button. And we can see that there is a sensor that's right here on the Galaxy Note 3 that we don't have on the Galaxy Note 4. On the bottom, there is one microphone only, whereas on the Note 4, we've got 2 microphones. Also on the Note 3, they decided to put the speaker on the bottom, which was very easy to cover when I was holding it. We've got USB 3.0, we've stepped back downward to USB 2.0, and I honestly am not missing the 3.0. I know that there are some people who are missing it, but for me, with my Mac, I was not able to use those features anyway. On the back sides, for the Note 4, we have a 16 megapixel camera. We've got a 13 megapixel on the Note 3. And then we've got a sensor here, where it's just a flash on the Note 3. And then we've got that speaker on the back of the Galaxy Note 4, which I will talk a little bit about later. We've also got our S Pens on the bottoms in the same spot. These are never very easy for me to take out. They look very similar to me, except for the Galaxy Note 3's. It's just a tad longer with a gray button instead of a black one. It's also a little bit more grippy and flat feeling on the Note 4. You can see we've got these ridges here. Both of them come with replacement tips. If we look underneath the back cover here, we've got a place to put our micro SD card. Same thing with the Galaxy Note 3. 128 gigabytes expandable versus 64 gigabytes expandable. And as far as the battery goes, this is a 3,220 milliamp hour battery, whereas on the Galaxy Note 3 it's 3,200 milliamp hours, so 20 milliamp hours is not very big of a difference. It's the same size battery, really. I think what I'm saddest about with the Galaxy Note 4 is that it doesn't have any type of waterproofing ability like with the S5. Although I'm sure that waterproofing these phones cramps Samsung's style in terms of how beautiful they can make the phone. The Galaxy S5 is okay looking, but you can see that stylistically Samsung can't do everything that they would like with it. So it's form over function, definitely, for this unit. I think that overall it has a very premium feel to it, a very industrial type design. This does not look like a cheap phone. It's also got some heft to it as well. I honestly think that this is the nicest looking device that Samsung has ever put out. So checking out the size of the Galaxy Note 4, I've got these titans here, the gigantors of the smartphone family. Here we have the always smudgy Nexus 6, Galaxy Note 4, Galaxy Note 3, and the huge iPhone 6 Plus. So taking a look at the Galaxy Note 4, the Galaxy Note 4 is just a hair wider, but the iPhone 6 Plus is just a hair taller. I think they're pretty much the same size device overall though. Then taking a look at the Nexus 6, the Nexus 6 is actually quite a bit wider than the Galaxy Note 4, and that's something that you can tell in hand. I got used to the way that the Nexus 6 feels in hand, but it did take me some time to get used to that width. I think that the perfect width is what we have here on the Note 4. That feels most natural in my hand. I do have small hands though, so keep that in mind. I'm sure for people who have larger hands, maybe this feels just fine as well, but between them both, I think that the thinner width does feel much nicer. Now just looking at the display sizes, we've got a 5.7 inch display of the Galaxy Note 4. You can see it's nearly 6 inches on the Nexus 6. It really does look much bigger. But what we have with the Galaxy Note 3 is the same size display. The difference that we have here is that this is a Quad HD display versus 1080p. The Nexus 6 is Quad HD as well. All of these which are AMOLED. Now please realize what you're seeing here on camera is not how these displays look in real life. The white balance is not accurate here. My lights are not the best. So just keep this in mind. I don't want you to make any comparisons or conclusions about these displays based on what you're seeing here. That is why I do measurements. And then we have the IPS display of the iPhone 6 Plus. And the 6 Plus is 5.5 inches versus the 5.7 on both the Note 3 and the Note 4. So now I wanted to take a second to thank my sponsors over at Audible.com so much for making content creation possible. If you don't know who Audible is, they're a leading online provider of downloadable audiobooks with over 150,000 titles from every genre that I can possibly think of. One of the sections that I've been listening to most lately, and actually for a while now, is the self-development section. And one of the titles that's really caught my attention is called How to Stay Motivated, Developing the Qualities of Success by Zig Ziglar. And I kid you not, this guy's name really is Zig Ziglar. So this guy is a really humorous and intelligent motivational speaker, and he goes around talking about his life experiences and talks about how to stay motivated in one of the best ways, which is changing how you approach things, changing your attitude towards certain things, how to handle various situations. So I have found this to be a really good listen. I am excited to listen to the rest of the chapters. So if you want to check out this book for free and to try out Audible service, follow audible.com/Erica. If you need some help or a boost in how to stay motivated in this next year, I think that this is a good listen. So again, if you want to check out this book or any other book, follow audible.com/Erica. And if for some reason you don't like this book, you're free to exchange it at any time, no questions asked. And also, since they are an Amazon company, you can log in with your Amazon information. So check it out. It's a really great listen. It helps my channel. I think it is a worthy thing to listen to coming into this new year. So now let's talk about what makes the Galaxy Note 4 the Galaxy Note 4. There are so many features on this device. There are so many features that I wonder if someone who's not tech savvy gets this unit, if they would really even know what to do with it. But what I want to do is talk about some of the things that you can do with this device. Maybe give you a bit of the lowdown on all the features. First and foremost, what makes the Galaxy Note 4 a Note device is the S Pen and all the features that you have with the S Pen. Since the first Galaxy Note came out, Samsung has really built on the features, and now I find it to be pretty nifty. So on the S Pen here, we have an execution button. This is the same thing we've had for a while. You just go ahead and click that. You can see it brings up this air command type wheel thing. So starting from the left, the first one that I want to look at is called Action Memo, and for me, this one happens to be the most useful. So this is your little drawing pad that you can put names on, you can put phone numbers on, and it's able to recognize it and then do the action that you would like it to do. So just for example, if I want to look up 123 Hickory Street, just say that I'm on the phone with somebody and I need to write down an address at the exact same time, or maybe even a phone number at the same time. So I'm able to write down the address, I'm able to write down the phone number, all during my speakerphone phone call, for example. And then I can go ahead and select just part of this, and I can link this to an action. So the appropriate one for here is looking up 123 Hickory Street on a map. You can see it's able to recognize my handwriting, 123 Hickory Street, and it minimizes this note tab here. So I'm able to find 123 Hickory Street, and then I can go ahead and select this phone number here. And I can even decide to call it. I can save it inside my contacts. I can text right from here. I can look up this number in my browser if I'd like to. Save it underneath tasks. So let's just say that I want to text this phone number. You can see it's recognized it just fine, even with my terrible handwriting, so this works really well. So all of this is not new. This is something that has been available for a while, but what I like is being able to pin it. And now I can keep it as a little note here right on my home screen. I can then decide to open it up inside S Note to edit it, or I can go ahead and save it as an S Note. The next one that we have is Smart Select. So you go ahead and select Smart Select. And then anywhere, just say you're underneath the web browser, anywhere that you are on the phone that you're able to execute Smart Select, you just select something. And you can see that I have my little window here that I selected. If I want to, I can save this underneath my scrapbook, or I can go ahead and collect. So if I hit collect, it saves it in this little window here. You can see it says collect more content with the S Pen. Tap to share or save the collected items. So it's just going to keep this little window here for me. So just say now that in the spirit of Christmas, I decided to collect some images of Christmas trees. I was getting inspired. You can hit that plus button and then go ahead and just select all of this stuff here, and I can save it in my collection. So now, in addition to collecting some images about Christmas trees, I found some instructions about how to decorate a Christmas tree and where to buy some nice multicolored lights. So you can tap on what you've got underneath here, or you can click on T for meta text. And then down here at the bottom you can see I can get back to my URL that I was looking at, and it also saves the text up here that I was looking at. Now if I don't want to keep this here forever, then I can just simply save it to scrapbook. Go ahead and save it. Let's go and go underneath here where it says item saved to scrapbook. And you can see my collection here, and I can easily get back to everything that I was looking at. So I think that that feature works well for multitasking. It's not something that I've used a lot because I tend to just bookmark things underneath Chrome browser. But if you're someone who really needs to keep your thoughts in place to not forget what you were doing, what you were looking at, I think that that might be a really good option using this Smart Select. And then we have image clip, where we can just go ahead and take something out of part of an image. So just say I want this stocking right here. Just go ahead and select this the best I can. And you can see that that's not so pleasant, so I can go ahead and try to have this shape automatically recognized. Give it a moment. Now you can see that this is nice and outlined just as I like. And then I can save it underneath scrapbook. I can just keep it free form. I can change it to being an oval here, a square here, and you can adjust it any way that you'd like. But I want to just keep the exact outline, so let's go ahead and save that now to scrapbook. Save it. Saving in scrapbook. And now we can go and take a look at it, and it has saved it just like this for me. The last example I have is, just say that you have a Christmas party going on and people don't know exactly how to get there. So we have something pulled up on the map here, just say our location. We can use screen write. We can take a capture of the screen that we're looking at. And then if we'd like to, we can edit it. I can pick some red pen. And I can pick my location as right here. Circle it. Say we are here. Excuse my handwriting. And just say they're coming off from this area. So you can go la 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 la, how to get there. You can then save it to your gallery. You can share it. So email it to everyone, just say. And there we are underneath the gallery. That's what that looks like. So I think that the pen has a lot of really nice and cool features. But there were some things on the Galaxy Note 3 that you were not able to do with just using your fingers, some things that you had to use the pen for. There was a feature that was called Pen Window. Let's go ahead and grab the Note 3. This is where I think Samsung has really made an improvement. So in order to access Pen Window, you can see we have the same air command thing. And you can see that this says Pen Window, where our categories are Action Memo, Smart Select, Image Clip, and Screen Write. And yes, you can see that the pen works on both of them. We've got Action Memo, Scrapbooker, Screen Write, S Finder, and then Pen Window. So with the Pen Window, we can open up applications and keep them in small windows here on our front screen. So let's just draw some window shape, and then we have a couple of things that we can choose to keep as an application that's open on the side. So just say that we want to keep Calculator open, for example, and then you can go ahead and open up another one. Go ahead and just draw another square type box. Let's go ahead and put YouTube. So you're able to keep these boxes open, but you can only access these boxes when you are using the S Pen. You can't just do it with your finger. You can see that with this layout, you should really use an S Pen because this is so tiny. If I want to minimize this window, I have to click there. You see I have these little circle-y orb things. How we have it on the Note 4 is much, much, much better. So here we have, just say Chrome, we have my pictures of my stockings. All I need to do is drag downward from either side of the display here, and it minimizes a small window for me, so it really allows me to multitask. I can have several windows open at a time as long as they are supported. Not all of them are supported. So here we have even the camera, where you can see that we have the viewfinder open here. We've got 3 gigabytes of RAM. It handles all of this fairly smoothly. That's what makes this experience pretty awesome. You can see that we can easily get between these windows. We can also minimize them just like we did and make them into little orbs, like on the Galaxy Note 3. So here we have those. Just set them around in any way that you'd like. So underneath here we have several options. The first is to select this box here, and it allows us to drag images or text into messages, the body of messages. So I have a new message that's being created here. I can tap this, then grab my image and drag it and drop it into this message area. I can go ahead and then minimize this, so now I've got a couple of things going on here. I believe that you can keep 5 open at a time. That's all it's going to allow you to do. So now we've got all these things in the way, and it gets kind of overwhelming, so I can either minimize them, make them into the little orbs that I showed you, or you can just simply drag this to the top It makes this full screen. I can drag another one up to the top and it makes it partial screen. So you can see here, let's just go ahead and minimize this one. So we can be texting, messing with our music at the same time. We can move the window around, make it larger, smaller. If I want to pull it outward to make it a window again, I can hold down on this. You can see it minimizes the window again. Then I can drag from the side there. You can see now I have all of my windows again. So that really enhances the multitasking experience. Another way that you can access this multitasking feature is to click on the Recent Apps window. Any of these tabs that have the multi-window icon on them, you can simply tap. You can see it then asks you which other app you want to open with it, or you can simply hold on it like this, and then it makes it into a smaller window. And then the last way to access this multi-window or multitasking type function is to hold down on the back button. You can see that we're brought up with this bar here. So there are so many different ways to get to your applications. It's very much a multitasking machine. It's quick, it's snappy, it's fairly easy to use once you get the hang of it. And it can handle a lot of different applications at once. So I think that the way Samsung has implemented this is pretty huge. Big, big, big leap forward from what we had on the Galaxy Note 3. The one gripe I have about this is that I find when I'm going about the phone, this is a little too easy to access. You need to pull down from either the left corner or the right corner, but sometimes I'll want to actually access the status bar here with just my thumb, and I'll accidentally get that window feature to come up all the time. I find that to be the one really annoying thing on here that might make me disable this at some point. I wish there was some way for this device to really make the distinction between wanting your status bar to activate and getting this window function to activate, because I just do this from the side. I've got small hands, so it's not always easy for me to reach over to the middle and deliberately pull down. So a lot of the times I just accidentally activate this. So just say I wanted to pull down the notification shade. Whoops, I didn't quite get the notification shade. So this can be disabled. You don't have to use this. So if it's something that's always in the way for you, you don't have to use it. But I do think that this adds a lot to this phone. So we were just looking at all the multi-window functions. If you don't like that pop-up view shortcut that I was showing you, you can deselect it from underneath here. That's easy enough to access. Another thing that I love about the Galaxy Note 4 is that it has a lot of one-handed features, and that's something that's really needed for a person who has tiny hands. A lot of people say, well, if you have small hands, then you shouldn't have a big phone. Gawk, gawk, blah, 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 blah. But I like having a large phone. I like having a very large display. It doesn't matter to me if this doesn't fit well in my pocket. What I care about is the usability. And Samsung definitely keeps that in mind. So going underneath one-handed operation, you have reduced screen size, one-handed input, and side key panel. So first I want to point out what Apple is doing right now. At least they're trying to do something. You can see that this is a very large phone. Again, I love large phones. You can double tap and it brings down this top row to where you can kind of access things, but I still can't reach all the way across the display. So that's not so helpful for me. What Samsung has done is added this reduced screen size. This is something that was on the Galaxy Note 3 as well. It's just accessed a little differently now. This time you have to hold it and go right to the center of the display and outward. You can see with my small hand, I can actually pretty much access everything on here, even the bottom. And then if I go outward again like that, it's like a swipe type motion. It minimizes it, do that again, and it makes it large again. So that is called reduced screen size. We've also got one-handed input, so that will justify a keyboard like your calculator or underneath the dialer left or right for you. And then we've also got side key panel. This is something that I'm actually really enjoying. So with a person with small hands like myself, you can see that it can be very difficult to access the home button or any of the keys at the bottom. Well, with this side key panel, Samsung has now included a little area here. This is a fully active navigation bar on the side. You can see I can drag it around to where I find it best suits me, my best grip. And you can see I've got access now to recent applications. I can easily get to my home screen. I've got the back button. And since I find it a little bit fiddly to get this display to go smaller like this, and since I don't want to lose my grip and drop it, I can just use my navigation keys here now, tap down there, and it minimizes this, so it's a lot easier for me to activate. I don't have to worry about choking upward, going to the center of the display, and then going outward like this. So I can keep my hand firmly at the bottom where I like to have my grip. I don't have to ever change my grip, and I can easily access everything here. I can actually pull it down a little bit even more. So you can see why a person like myself would be excited. I don't want to lose my grip. I don't have to. I like to keep my pinky down at the bottom like this, and I can access everything. So I have to thank Samsung for considering the little people. Another thing that makes the Galaxy Note 4 the Galaxy Note 4 is the improved fitness capabilities of this device. With the Galaxy S5, we saw Samsung starting out doing some things by adding a heart rate monitor sensor on the back, and that was kind of interesting. I wasn't so happy with that at first. I was wondering, why don't they add a dual LED flash instead of that? I don't understand. Why do they need to have that sensor there? But it looks like Samsung is developing more upon that. They're really starting to do a lot with these fitness bands and in combination with a lot of accessories that you can use with your phone. Underneath S Health now, this sensor does a lot of things. So not only do we have the ability to measure our heart rate like we saw on the Galaxy S5, we now have the ability to look at our oxygen saturation level. It also has a UV sensor so we can see what the UV rating for the day is. And one of my favorite ones that I've been playing around with my family is called stress. So this lets us know with the variability of our heart rate what our stress levels are. You can see that this was mine, this is my last reading. And it kind of lets you know where you are in terms of stress. It wants me to be quiet, but I'm not going to be quiet. So it's measuring. You can see that you need to keep your finger right on top of that sensor properly. And then it starts reading. I did this with all of my family, and everyone was playing around seeing what their stress was, and I thought maybe since everyone seemed to be stressed all the time that it didn't work so well. But then I saw that some people in my family were less stressed than others, and I think maybe it might have some accuracy here. And I can see that when I'm really stressed out, it tells me. I don't know how useful this is, but it's just a way to see how you're feeling. Yeah, you can see I'm kind of in the mid-zone, not really stressed, but I'm always busy and it's late. So it tracks through the week what your stress levels are like. You can see monthly, daily, hourly. So I find that to be kind of fun to play with. I don't think it's absolutely something that's necessary. We have a pedometer inside of the phone, and what I like about this pedometer is that it yells at me. If it senses for too long that I've been inactive, it'll say, "Hey, do you want to go for a run or something?" And I will see that on the lock screen. It will give me a notification about being inactive for a while. So of course you've got all the other things underneath S Health. We've also got something for sleep. So if you have one of those bands, just say one of the Galaxy bands, it records your sleep data and then you can sync it to your phone. I haven't had a chance to try that, but that's something I definitely want to try. I seem to be an insomniac. I want to see what this has to say about my sleep. So I like that Samsung is doing some extra things now with this sensor on the back. I think they are doing well moving into the fitness zone. The last feature that I wanted to talk about here is the fingerprint scanner. Now I have usually had a lot of gripes with this fingerprint scanner. It's something that I haven't been able to get to work perfectly for my tiny hands and in my situation and how I am able to unlock the phone. But some people really like and appreciate this fingerprint scanner. I find it to be a little bit deliberate, like you really need to swipe down just the same way. Although some people will register their fingerprint a couple of different ways. That way they can try to unlock the phone a couple of different ways with a different grip. And for some people that works. So that would be my best recommendation for you, is if you want to be able to open it a couple of different ways, then you can move your fingerprint around. There is one warning. If you encrypt your device, you're not going to be able to use the fingerprint scanner to unlock the lock screen. So since my device is encrypted, I'm not able to use that fingerprint scanner anymore, but I can use the fingerprint scanner for other things once the phone is unlocked. You just can't use it for the lock screen. It's going to make me use the high security password each time. So keep that in mind. If you encrypt your device, you do lose some functionality in terms of using the fingerprint scanner. You can also use your fingerprint in web sign-in. So if there are some websites that support being able to sign in with your fingerprint, you can use that. You can verify your Samsung account. You can also pay with PayPal. I hope there are more things in the future that you can use this for, but one feature I find to be pretty excellent that you can use this for is called private mode. So just say you have pictures that you don't want people to see. This will hide a partition for you. And we can access this partition with our fingerprint. So you can see that I have the private mode on. If I go underneath my file explorer, I will see the partition for private mode. So you can see here is my private partition where I can move things onto. I was able to unlock that with my fingerprint, keep it locked down with my fingerprint. And now it goes away. And we can no longer see that private partition there anymore. So I find that to be fairly simple in order to access it. Now checking out performance on the Galaxy Note 4, this has the S805 SoC inside of it. It's got 4 Crate 450 cores clocked at 2.7 gigahertz, and it's got an Adreno 420 GPU inside of it with 3 gigabytes of RAM. Those 3 gigabytes of RAM have been incredibly helpful, as you've seen so far, with a lot of the multitasking and multi-window features. One thing that has never impressed me about TouchWiz is that it's never been 100% smooth. Even on the Galaxy Note 4 with hardware this powerful, we do see some frame drops still here and there. So that's something that I don't think that Samsung is ever going to be able to get entirely smooth if we've already got very, very fast hardware. The interface is all right. I'm really not a fan of this color scheme. I'm curious to see what they're going to be doing with Lollipop on this device, and who knows when we're going to get that. But TouchWiz does look minimalistic enough. It's not enough to make me very, very angry. Opening and closing applications has been nice and quick, but I do have to say that I enabled encryption on this device because I was comparing it to the Nexus 6 performance. And when you enable encryption on the Galaxy Note 4, I can see that it gets pretty slow like the Nexus 6 at opening some large games. That's really where I see a struggle in performance. But without that encryption enabled, I have seen the applications are opening nice and quickly, games are opening nice and quickly. Now to talk about game performance, I am very pleased. At this point with performance, there really is not much to gawk at. Everything that I have thrown at it has performed well. Overall, there really is not much to complain about, and if you don't like this launcher, just use a different launcher, use Nova Launcher, use something else. But overall, I think that the Note 4 is an awesome performer, and I'm curious to hear that there's going to be a Korean 810, S810 version of this. That'll be something that I want to get my hands on, but for now this is more than powerful enough, with plenty of features, and they perform very well. So now moving on to talk about this display. This is a 5.7-inch AMOLED display, same as what we have with the Galaxy Note 3, except for this is now Quad HD in resolution versus 1080p. Both of these displays are pentile, that diamond matrix pentile that we've been seeing for quite some time with Samsung displays. What I can say about this Quad HD display is that it's so pixel dense now that I can't tell that it's pentile anymore. With pentile displays, you have more overall green subpixels than either red or blue. Where on normal displays, every pixel has 3 subpixels, red, green, and blue, whereas on pentile displays, you have red, green, and green, blue. So you can see you have an overall bias of green subpixels. And if you look at places on a display that's not very high resolution that has pentile, you can kind of see where it looks like you're missing a subpixel, and it brings down the overall density of the display. So at Quad HD, I can't tell anymore. The Galaxy Note 3 was sharp enough at that 1080p, but when looking at it with my eyes, I'm sensitive to those pentile type matrix, so I could tell, especially along borders and text. But in order for me to tell that this is pentile now, I really have to go in and magnify it to see it. Borders and text, everything looks really super sharp, and I am very happy with the result. Now talking about the calibration on the Galaxy Note 4, something that I like about what Samsung does is that they give you a couple of different display modes so that you can decide how you want your display to look. That's something that we don't have on other AMOLED displays on devices like the Nexus 6. You don't have the ability to change the appearance. And on the Nexus 6, that device is very, very, very saturated. So I like that Samsung has a couple of different options. Starting off with the basic mode, this is the most sane mode that the Galaxy Note 4 has, and I like how it appears over the Galaxy Note 3. It seems that Samsung is trying to do the best that they can, getting it at least close to sRGB. It's still not entirely accurate, and the gamma is still too high, but at least this mode doesn't look overly blue. So it's not entirely accurate to sRGB, but I think that this looks the best. But when I'm watching movies on Netflix or if I'm on YouTube, this is usually the mode that I will change the display to. Otherwise, I like the AMOLED photo mode. The AMOLED photo mode has a wide gamut, so you do have oversaturated colors on the AMOLED photo mode. And the color temperature isn't overly blue as well, but you still have that high gamma. And then you've got the AMOLED Cinema mode, which does a really pronounced S-curve underneath the gamma. It really pops. This mode has got very dark shadows, and then it's got a contrast of making the highlights lighter. So it does give it an artificial contrasty effect. Plus, it's incredibly oversaturated, and it's got a very wide gamut. And also, the color temperature is very bluish. So they call this AMOLED Cinema mode, but this is actually a mode that I would not use for watching movies or any type of content because it's going to take shadows and make things look way too dark. And it makes skin tones look incredibly oversaturated, so it's just not something that I would ever use. It's interesting, it creates a nice effect, but Then moving on to adaptive display, it says this mode automatically optimizes the color range, saturation, and sharpness of your display for the following applications. So things like gallery, camera, internet video, smart remote, Google Play Books. And then it tells you that this mode may not be compatible with third-party applications. So this mode can adjust the appearance of what you're looking at. And I don't like things messing around with what I'm looking at unless I have the control over it, so I tend to not use this mode. I do want to point out some inconsistencies with this display. I have seen a lot of Galaxy Note 4 displays, and this is actually my second Galaxy Note 4 that I got from AT&T to borrow to take a look at for this review. I did have one from T-Mobile that I purchased myself that I ended up returning because I saw that the display was two-toned, and I'm seeing that again, unfortunately. So I'm seeing a kind of a reddish tint here, and it gets to be a different tint down here at the bottom. It's warmer, so this is more reddish, and this becomes warmer at the bottom. It may be hard to tell on camera, and this one is not as bad as the first one that I had. But I went around to many different phone stores. I went around to a couple Best Buys, and I looked at the displays that were sitting on display, and I could see that many of them had the exact same problem. So it seems to be very common to have an AMOLED display that is two-toned. On the Galaxy Note 3, I saw the same thing with a two-tone display. I actually exchanged my Galaxy Note 3 immediately after I got it, so this is the second one that I got, and this one actually looks decent. The uniformity of the display is not bad. So this just is something that's common with these AMOLED displays. It might not even be something that you pay attention to or something that you realize, but when you're underneath the web browser, and the web browser is white, and you're scrolling through a web page, at the top if you're reading the web page, you're reading the text, and then when you get to the bottom, suddenly the temperature of the display is different. So it gets to be a little bit difficult for my eyes, and some other people report the same thing. So just keep this in mind. This seems to be a very common thing with these displays. I looked at many different Galaxy Note 4 displays, and most of them had this issue. So if your display doesn't have this problem, good for you. And for those of you who notice this same thing on the display, you can try exchanging yours a few times, but you never know what you're going to get the second time. So if yours isn't really bad and you can live with it and you didn't notice it before me pointing it out to you, probably don't worry about it. Now as for the speaker on the back, I am quite disappointed with it. It does get very loud, but I find that it sounds very tinny. There's absolutely no bass to it. That's something that I'm really appreciating about the Nexus 6 and what I'm appreciating about the M8. Stereo speakers do really well with media experience with a display this large, and they do a lot better on the front. So having this itty-bitty tiny speaker in the back that at least gets loud but is tinny and doesn't have any bass, it kind of feels insulting to the overall experience. I would call it just okay. It's not anything that I would love to sit and listen to music on, but it's good enough to hear for ringtones, it's good enough to hear for GPS. I can stand listening to it for media content. It's just nothing to wow about. Now moving on to battery life, I'm easily able to get through the day with this device. I do want to remark something interesting though. This is the AT&T version that I am using now, and I came from a T-Mobile version. And on the T-Mobile version, the screen on time, I was easily able to get over 6 hours, with no problem whatsoever, and I find that it's not very easy to do on this AT&T variant. That's just my remark. I can't exactly say why that is, but I know that this device is capable of hitting over 6 hours of on-screen time pretty easily, and it also gets me through the day. I keep it at half brightness, I have it on LTE sometimes, but mostly I'm on Wi-Fi. I do a lot of social media, a lot of YouTube, Netflix. I don't play very many games. When you start playing games, the battery is going to drop a lot more quickly. But otherwise, this is a pretty excellent phone that will last you through the day. I'm really happy that we have this new Quick Charge 2.0 feature, this adaptive fast charging. And on this phone we have two separate charging modes, one for 9 volts and at 1.67 amps, or 5 volts and 2.0 amps. So if you have fast charging enabled, you can go from 0 to 50% in just a half hour. Once you get over that 50% mark, the charging does slow down. It's not as rapid as it was to begin with. But what Samsung says, it's about 99 minutes with the fast charging now. So I am seeing about an hour and 45 minutes usually to charge up fully, whereas on the Galaxy Note 3 it was over 2 hours. So definitely not bad. There's also the ultra power saving mode, which Samsung claims if you have 10% battery you can last an entire day on the ultra power saving mode. So you've got the power saving mode, which will restrict background data, restrict performance, and turn on grayscale mode if you'd like, and the ultra power saving mode that I had mentioned. So at 94% battery, if I turn this on, it can last 16.9 days. That is Samsung's estimate. So you can see that you are limited here in applications. It tells you how much time you have about left. What I notice here is that the list is very short. You can see I had Google+. I wish we were able to have Google Hangouts as well. I don't understand. If you can have Google+, why don't you have Google Hangouts? So I'm wondering if they're going to be adding more applications underneath here in the future, but right now this is really all you have. So you're able to text, use the phone, browse the web, go on Google+, Facebook, Twitter, calculator. It's a good enough set of applications, but I really wish they had Google Hangouts under here as well. Now getting into connectivity, call quality has been just fine on this device. When you ask about reception, it's just going to depend upon where you live and also which carrier you have. For example, I'm in an area the AT&T is just terrible, but T-Mobile has really great reception here, so that's a little bit hard to answer on the reception side. But otherwise, with things like Wi-Fi connectivity, it's 802.11 AB, G, N, and AC. I haven't had any issues connecting whatsoever. It has a strong signal. We've also got Bluetooth 4.1 low energy, and that has been working fine for me. Although Bluetooth is one of those hard things to talk about because there's always someone having trouble with Bluetooth connectivity for some reason or another. Now as for GPS, I haven't had any issues with using it for navigation, although I have heard some people complaining that when they're stationary, it's able to lock, but as soon as they start moving for a while, it loses connection. But then when they stop again, then it finds a lock. But I have not been experiencing that, so I've had just fine time with all connectivity aspects of this phone. So the last thing that I want to do in this review is talk about the camera, the interface, and also how it performs. So we've got a 16 megapixel shooter here on the back with optical image stabilization. We've got a single LED flash here on the back. Now let's just go ahead and look at the interface. So I really like what Samsung has done with the interface. It's very clean, it's very simple to use. I have often found Samsung's cameras to be a little bit complicated to figure out what all the settings do and where everything is located. So on this left-hand side, we've got two icons right here that never change. They never go away. So this one allows us to change to the front-facing camera. This one is for general settings. And we're able to switch out these two. So for example, if we go underneath the settings and hit this extra settings tab here, you can drag these and just have these two. Or you can choose two of your choosing. So I like to have HDR and also being able to choose the video size on the fly instead of having to dig in some settings when I quickly want to change things. Then on the right hand side, this button starts video recording. This is our camera shutter button, and we've also got the mode button. This thing is freaking out here. It tries to refocus every 2 seconds. Move stuff. See if that changes anything. And then we've got the gallery icon down here at the bottom. So starting off with the settings wheel on the left-hand side, this is just like our settings shortcut. You have the ability to change the size of your picture from here. You can choose your effects. You can choose your timer and whether you want the flash to be on or off. Ooh, it actually looks like you can put 3 there. Does it fit anymore? Nope, just 3. And if you wanted to see the rest of the settings like I showed before, click on those 3 dots. We have the ability to control the exposure compensation, ISO, white balance. You can choose your metering modes, center weighted matrix or spot. Of course, you got HDR, tap to take pictures. You can choose your video size, which I have conveniently placed here. You have your recording modes. You have normal, limit for MMS, slow motion, fast motion, and smooth motion. So smooth motion is 60 FPS. Fast motion lets you record things and speed them up. And slow motion, so that's 60, 120, and 240. We've got a video stabilization mode. When you see that there's a line through it, it is off. And if you're recording and you don't see this line through it, you will also see an icon that shows that you have that image stabilization mode on underneath video. So you don't have to worry about not knowing if it's on or off, especially because this is a digital type stabilization that is added, it looks like, on top of the optical image stabilization. And I think it kind of makes the frame look wobbly. So I do not like keeping this on at all. I think it's fine without it. Then you have location tagging. You can choose your storage location if you have an SD card slot that's inside the phone. You've got your grid lines to make sure that everything is nice and composed correctly. You've got voice control, shutter sound, and then you can assign different things to the volume key, take pictures, record video, and also zoom. You've got the review pics/video after stopping recording, and you can reset everything to default. Then looking over at the right side here underneath modes, it's everything that we've seen so far. You've got automatic, we've got beauty face, shot, and more. Now, all these settings, a lot of you have probably seen already, so I really don't want to go into them. We've got rear cam selfie. I like this one, where if you turn the camera on yourself, it recognizes your face and takes a picture within a couple of seconds. So I find that to work quite well. You've got the selective focus that we saw on the Galaxy S5, the panorama mode virtual tour that I also saw on the Galaxy S5, and the dual camera mode that we've seen for a while in many different phones. You can manage the modes, so if you don't want them all there, if you're never going to use, just say virtual tour, or you're never going to use panorama. So let's just select a few. And then you can see it's a little bit less cluttered. You can also add some other applications inside of here from underneath Galaxy's store. So I like the interface. I think it's very clean. It's very easy to use. I'm happy with how fast this camera is to focus, and also how quick it is at taking shots as well. This is a 16 megapixel sensor, and it's a 16:9 aspect. And then everything else here we have is a crop. So talking a bit more about this camera, I am pleased that we now have optical image stabilization, because on the Galaxy Note 3, I noticed that when I tried to take indoor shots, I ended up having quite a bit of trouble. I made the mistake of taking the Galaxy Note 3 to CES last year, and I saw that half of my pictures came out blurry, unfortunately, indoors. You had to hold the device very, very, very stable. And sometimes I'm not as steady of hand as I wish I could be, so the Galaxy Note 3 didn't prove to be so great for taking indoor photos, but that is a thing of the past on the Galaxy Note 4. I'm able to take very nice and sharp indoor photos due to having the optical image stabilization, so that is something I really appreciate. I wouldn't be scared to take this again to CES or MWC or wherever that I want to be taking pictures where they matter. Now, when looking at how the Galaxy Note 4 performs on the picture side, I am happy with the overall color profiling of these images. I think that the colors are a bit oversaturated, but I think that they look nice overall. The one thing that I don't forgive about the pictures, though, is that the images look really smudgy. So just say that you go outside and you take pictures of leaves on trees, or you take pictures of grass. What I notice is that the images look really smudgy. The grass looks smudged out and you lose a lot of that detail. It looks like Samsung is doing some over processing where they have a lot of noise reduction. And then I see they add a little bit of sharpening back. So I've not been so pleased with what I'm seeing with that, because I take these lovely outdoor shots and then I go back to look at the pretty nature that I have preserved and it's all smudged out. I am happy with the way they've implemented HDR though. I usually like the results with HDR on Samsung phones. It's really nice that just like the Galaxy S5, we have the ability to turn on and off HDR in real time. We can view it in real time. So to get my best results, I will usually just keep HDR on all the time, and I get a pretty good result. It looks quite shaky to me. And now it looks like it's standing still. So thank you everybody for watching. This has been Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. So this is a really nice phone overall. I think it's one of the best choices that you're going to find in the phablet world especially. I'm not sure if I would tell you to run out and get it if you have the Galaxy Note 3 right now. But if you want a very pixel dense display, some of the new features within the suite of features that they're offering, maybe if you want optical image stabilization or quick charge, those are some of the reasons I could see you wanting to go out and get this device over the Galaxy Note 3. So this is a device with a good camera, with great battery life. It's got a lot of cool features. I think that the features can tend to feel overwhelming if you're not someone who's going to learn how to use them. But over the Galaxy Note 3, I love the look and the feel. I love the design. I love the simplified back cover. I like this new band around the sides. It does make all the difference. It feels like a very premium device. It's amazing how much of a difference this makes. So let me know what you think is the best phablet, which one that you would pick over the Galaxy Note 4, or even if you think the Galaxy Note 4 is the best and why. That's probably going to cause a lot of fanboyisms and trolling in the comment section. But I'm just curious to see what your opinion is overall. So comment in the comment section below, ask your questions, and have a good night, everyone. Let me know what you think.